Hello and welcome to The Pursuit, the podcast where we talk about all things dating, especially to those with the Adventist persuasion. This season, we are talking about issues and topics relating to dating in your late 20s, and today's topic is on money and the economy and things like that. Today, I'm joined by my buddy Mike. And Mike, when Ade and I started getting to know each other, and actually you can find, I guess, me or this video on YouTube, like the Why Are You Single? You can find my video on YouTube for free, and you can hear, I guess, more of the story. I told her that one of the reasons I didn't want to date was because I didn't have the money to. So if you remember, I mentioned before that Ade and I, like, it's not that I pushed her away, but that I was not ready to date. So then I just didn't really entertain that aspect of it. And the reality is that women are just expensive. I knew that then, and I know it now. Especially now that we're officially dating, and I can say like, okay, yeah, this is as expensive, if not more so than I thought it was. And I just didn't have the money, and I didn't want to, sell her on any dream that I wasn't going to be able to deliver on. So that was kind of one of the reasons why I told her no. Now, one of the reasons I said in the video that I also said to her that one of the caveats is that if we did date, she was going to, I guess, be in the know that she was going to be in the phase of my life where I, rebuilt it, like, as I rebuilt my business and things like that, that I wouldn't have as much money as I otherwise would, or as I did before, and things like that. And she was on board with that. I was very clear from the outset, and I just didn't want her to have any of the wrong idea. Because I had told her like, oh, like if I do date or when I do date, I'm going to do X, Y, and Z. But the fact that we're dating without me, still in the process of rebuilding my business, it's not as like I can't give her as much as I would want to, if that makes sense. And sometimes I wonder, like, I'm not terribly poor now in terms of like I can, supply all of my needs, her needs, whatever she needs, and things like that. But I wonder what things would be like if I couldn't do that. I think that would be a little sad.
If you didn't have money.
Yeah, to be able to do like pay for her flights and all that. I think.
Yeah, I don't really like how everything is so like obviously, yeah, we know things cost more these days, but I mean just looking at it like from like outside of like all that, why does it have to cost so much to like
Be in a
be in a
relationship
relationship? Because you say you wouldn't even consider it one reason because you
because
didn't have any money. But I
yeah,
feel like I mean like obviously you're working towards goals and you're young, so not everybody like most people don't when they're young like have a lot of money or not even in their careers. But like why is it like okay like yeah if you're in a relationship we're gonna be doing
why is
this
money
we're
such
gonna
a
be
hinge point, I guess, is what you're saying? Like,
yeah but
why is
like
it
who
such a
says you have to
decider?
like I mean obviously you're long distance so
Right.
but like who says he has to go on extravagant like dates and restaurants and stuff like that? I mean, yeah, maybe
Yeah, I
once a
guess.
while, but like I feel like it's become such a norm. Like guys or even girls maybe feel like intimidated by the fact that, oh man, I have to do this. I have to we're gonna have to travel, like because so many people do that, but like maybe a lot of people don't. I don't
No, I
know.
mean that's fair.
But like I feel like that's sad that people wouldn't even
Would limit
consider
themselves.
or not even approach a girl because they know they wouldn't be able to afford doing all that stuff.
Yeah, I
And
mean
and and, and
that's
it- and
kind of
it's
the
both
kind.
way. It goes both ways because there's a lot of
There's
people.
expectations too.
Yeah, there's expectations. Why are the expectations like that? Like how come we can't
Right.
just go for a nice walk in the park? How come can't just chill at home or do something like that? Why we got to go out to this 5-star restaurant? Why we got to go to Europe? I don't know. Like
Yeah, and that's the kind of conversation I want to have today. How like money affects dating in your late 20s, where presumably you have your career already set, you know what you're doing, and you should have presumably, like I said, more money, I guess.
in our
But
age,
but
I don't
but
even think
with
that's
more
the
money
case.
comes more problems, is more expectations, specifically for the man. Now, we don't make the rules, and you're like, well, why is it like that? I don't know. Why does the man have to pay for everything? Because we're the providers.
It shouldn't
It
be
is what
like
it
that.
is.
But I'm saying like, why does it
But
have to be such fancy, pricey, things that we're
I
doing?
don't think it
Now, I'm
has to
not
be.
saying like there obviously there's a level to it. Like you should have a
Yeah.
car, you should be able to like do some things. But like most people, even like in our age, aren't settled in a career or maybe just getting started off. don't have all that money and resources or even time to do all that, you know.
Yeah,
So
depending on where
just
you are in your state.
yeah,
And yeah, that's true. I
you
mean,
know, we know what
I've
the
actually heard some women say like, well, I have my own money. I work for myself. Whatever I can buy, like he should buy me something that I can't just buy for myself. And to me,
like
that's,
what, like buy what, like food.
yeah, I mean, I don't know. It's
What are you talking about?
like gifts. It's like, oh, if I can just get that myself, like
No,
that makes no sense.
see, this is how I view
I
it.
I
If,
think that's here. Hold on, let me just
all right, go ahead.
finish through this last read, but and then we'll get into that. But I think that's weird, and that's kind of like gold digger activity. And I'm not saying that that's exclusively in the world because I think it's also in Adventism. But I want to talk specifically how like the worsening economy is changing dating. I mean, it's too expensive to live alone, but you also need money to get someone to live with. You know, like in terms of like a partner
Well, yeah,
and
you
a
know,
future spouse. So it's like kind of like
obviously
a
that,
double
yeah,
edged sword.
yeah, that's kind of, you know, we want to date with intentionality, and if you can't afford to be married and have a family, then, you know, should you even be dating in general?
No, yeah, that's true. Now, like if there was a girl you were interested in, how would you say that the economy these days would change your way of thinking, or how would you tackle the money aspect? Like, would you do a lot of expensive dates, a lot of cheap
I mean, I
dates?
think it definitely
What
would
kind of
change things, but I'm more of a simple, old-fashioned type of guy, like anyway. So, you know, like I like going to the park. I like going outside. You know, I like going and doing things where I'm not necessarily trying to flaunt, like, yeah, I got this. I'm trying to get to know you,
mm-hmm.
you know. So I like to be in venues where we get a chance to know each other. I also think that a lot of this idea, like where we got to do this, we got to go out. I think more in the secular world where, you know, guys who take girls out to like these expensive steakhouses, they're expecting something in return.
Oh, good point. Yeah.
Yeah, it's not like just, oh, you know, I'm pursuing you, I'm courting you. No, like if
But
I'm paying up this,
I'm gonna need some.
you're gonna have to give me something in return. And seriously, that's where with me, like I feel
Even in
like
the Adventist world?
possibly, yeah. I
Yeah.
mean, I mean, I like there's a lot of secular stuff in the Adventist world. A lot of people
Yeah.
date, you know, like that in the Adventist world too. I'm assuming,
We've heard
but
stories.
oh, sure, you know, but you know, for me, if I'm like doing something like that, I feel like you know, if I'm spending an absorbent amount of money on a date, then it's just a first date. I feel like it brings a lot of pressure
Mm-hmm.
to the girl. Where if the expectation was, hey, we're gonna go back to my crib afterwards and, you know, do whatever, you know, that's kind of the expectation. But if your expectation isn't that, or if you're trying to have a relationship with the means of being a future partner, or you have genuine intentions, I don't think it's necessarily something you should stress upon. Like, man, how much money am I spending? How good is this place? Like, how much can I be a baller? It's more about like, what can you do where you get to know the person better, and there is no
Wow.
like expectation for her to be like, okay, yeah, he's done all this for me, I should do something for him. No, it's just like, let's just get to know each other. That's kind of how I am.
Okay, that's
You know,
fair.
just old fashioned meat
I think
potatoes, even though I'm vegetarian, you know, type of guy.
you literally just made potatoes today. They were delicious.
Hmm. Yeah,
I
come
mean,
back.
I
Yeah.
think I think the fact that life just being more expensive these days makes dating a whole lot trickier, in
I
the
think
sense
so.
that
Yeah.
you're less inclined to, I guess, venture out and take risks.
Hmm.
It's like you would, like, let's say you want to go to take a girl to a Bucks game because you want to go to that game,
Hmm.
and then she just so happens to want to go with you, right? Or you're like, oh no, I think it would be fun if we went together.
Hmm.
Now the fact that tickets are like, upwards of $300 each or more.
For a Bucks game?
Yeah, is that little? I don't know.
Well, I mean, I guess it depends on what seats you have. Like when I know you and LRA went, but
Yeah,
we never spend that much.
it's like during the Bucks game, I feel like the what do you call it? We spent, I think it was like $100 for both tickets, and we got pretty okay seats. But we kind of cheated in the sense that Abby got us some corporate discounted tickets. So because she got us the corporate discount, we got relatively cheaper tickets. But I mean, you would want to give her a nice experience, right?
Of course.
That's just my
Yeah, I
my
just feel
inkling
like
to want
with
to
me,
do that.
the how I approach things wouldn't change. But I mean, obviously, it depends on how much, you know. I guess if the economy is terrible
Yeah.
or things are a lot expensive, I would definitely, I would hope the girl would obviously expect like, okay, things are very expensive. We're probably not going to do, I don't expect them to do all this or go this way or go to this place or whatever. So, but my approach would still be the same though.
Yeah.
Just maybe
I
how I would, the things I would do, it might change given the circumstances.
No, I think that's fair.
Yeah.
I feel like the focus now is more on survival, and just making sure that you got your bills paid, making sure you can buy eggs,
Well,
than like a lot of other things, right? Because you
interestingly,
have less money for fun things, going out.
yeah.
Like I mean, I know I do, but I mean now I have already, so it's a little bit different.
Well, I kind of mentioned a few episodes ago how during the Great Depression of like the 1920s and 1930s, like a lot of men walked out on their families
Because they didn't
because
feel
they didn't
like,
have the money. So it made them feel that they weren't, I guess, providers, or it the psychology behind it made them feel that they I guess weren't living up to what they should do. And
yeah,
so so like there were millions of women who were single parents because their men walked out of them because there was no money.
yeah,
So they lost all their wealth. So I think, it's just always kind of been that way, and for a good reason. Like you need money,
yeah.
like can't survive really without it.
Would you say if you lived alone, you would be singing a different tune?
If I lived alone,
Hmm. So like if you had to pay rent on your own and pay all the bills by yourself, like you would be.
no,
You don't think you would have problems with dating, or in
no,
terms of
because
like
this is
affording
just
dates
this is
and
the type of person I am. I mean, obviously, like if I don't have money, like I'm not gonna be even doing stuff that I want to do, So
yeah. Well, that's my point. Like if we can't even do the things we want to do because of lack of money, imagine adding somebody else to that equation. It
yeah,
makes it
no,
that
I
much
think
more
you definitely
difficult.
definitely need some responsibility when it comes to that. Like, because I can't tell you how many stories and things like even at work where I've had patients who are young and in crappy situations, and they already had 2 and 3 kids. Like I had a patient, one girl. She was 19. She, I think, had 2 kids, I think, from a different part of the country, but decided to like move back up here without her kid and without her like the baby daddy, I guess.
Just solo?
And she's living with her friend. Now I don't know what all is going behind the scenes there, but there's a lot that I think would not happen to people, or a lot of bad situations that wouldn't happen to people if people were making sure they had foundations in other areas of their lives before they get into dating, before they have kids. Because so much of what we see today is because of lack of responsibility, lack of maturity. People having kids and they're working like if you're making
Yeah, but
well, I'm saying
would you say it also applies to the Adventist church or
yeah, it's
just
everywhere. It's
okay?
it's just a principle.
Sure.
Like like you can't. I think it's irresponsible to bring people into the world and not have the means to support them. Now, obviously, people want kids, and so part of it is also like the economy, like the leadership of the country doing things that make it harder, for people to have kids, and if they have kids, make it harder for them to survive. But like if you're in or in a situation where you are struggling, you probably should not date. I'm just saying.
So, but that's not what you were saying at the beginning of the episode.
What was it?
You were saying that, well, why not? Like, why do dates have to be expensive? Why not just go
Well,
on
I'm just
small
saying
dates?
there's
Because I
also
actually
that.
agree with you.
There is also that, but I'm just saying like at the base level, because I like there has to be like some responsibility on the person, and I think from a
And
Christian
by the person, you
perspective,
mean the man, usually.
both parties.
Okay, yeah.
But I think as a Christian, because we should be approaching dating as a means to marry. Like if
Yes.
you don't have the ability to be like, hey, yeah, I can get married like right now. Maybe hold
I
off
don't
a
think
little
you
bit.
necessarily have to be ready to get married
Well, I'm saying if we're
financially.
looking like the biblical principle of dating, because dating, we know that dating isn't really biblical. I mentioned a few episodes ago how maybe we should change the term to courting,
Oh, yeah, you didn't mention that,
because
yeah.
it's a means to getting married. So, if you don't have like the means to like get married,
You
like
shouldn't go to
what
date.
shouldn't.
I actually agree with you.
It's a hard concept, I understand, but it's just like if that's how we're gonna look at it, you
I
know.
think I think that the idea that you should, at least in my opinion, avoid dating is if you like avoid dating if you're, let's say, broke or whatever. I think that does hold true. Like you should have like get yourself financially correct because you're gonna need to, women are expensive and do dates and things like that.
Everything is
However,
expensive.
I think that only applies in the West. I don't think that applies to like lower like countries where the GDP is like really low because everybody's just poor. So then if everybody's poorer, there's more understanding of
Yeah, like it depends on the
like,
person, the
yeah,
expectations.
but like here in the US or in Europe or like in more developed countries, I think if you don't have your crap together, you should probably focus on that instead of dating.
Well, what does it
Whereas,
mean? What does it mean by having it together? You got to define that too.
well, okay, let's try to define it. To me, it means you can support yourself without needing to go into a huge amounts of debt or needing to
Oh,
borrow from parents or
everybody's
anybody
got
else.
that.
Okay, having debt and getting to debt to live your daily life are two different things, right? Like where if you need a credit card to make ends meet every month, I think that's like you can't afford your
I mean,
lifestyle.
that's everybody.
No, it's
Yeah,
not me.
that's a lot of people, man. I'm telling you, dude. So there's so much credit card debt in America. It's crazy.
But what's interesting is that the same does not apply to women, in my opinion. Where since men are the ones usually that have to pay for dates and let's say not everything, right? They pay for
Yeah, we're the
90%.
pursuers. Yes,
Yeah, for women they can be
they get away with it more.
way more,
Way more. Yeah.
right? And guys wouldn't really care. I mean, I wouldn't really care. I don't care, right?
Well,
Because
guys want
today
to.
makes a lot.
Guys want to show off
Like
that
as of
they
today
can.
studies,
Well,
she
yeah.
doesn't. She makes a lot less money than I do, and that's not really an issue. But once she's a nurse, she's going to be making good money after that. Like once she's like fully a nurse here, right?
Mhm.
She's going to be making good money. But the point is that when you're dating, for obvious reasons, women, it doesn't really affect them
It's
that
just the
much.
traditional
It
way.
it
It's just
does
more
in
how
the
it's always
sense of
been.
like if you're overworking yourself, you have less time to focus on your body, so then you probably don't have the physique that you have, or you don't have the money to put into nice dresses and or
Yeah.
just clothing
Well,
in general,
hopefully,
accessories, things like that.
yeah.
So I mean, women do need money to date and all that, but like Michael's saying, it doesn't affect them as much. It's a completely different ballgame, I would say.
Well, you would hope that, that's why I kind of like career-oriented girls because they have their own life and
Yeah.
they don't need to always like rely. And there's nothing wrong
So
with. I'm not saying there's
that's
nothing wrong
something
with
that
being a stay-at-home like mom if you have kids or whatever, or, whoever. But like, if you have your own career, you have your own life, you would understand more. I think that's why a lot of like people who are higher up in like the world who have a lot of money, like a lot of celebrities date celebrities or athletes date athletes because they know the grind. They know it's expected. And
You've mentioned that to me a couple times now where like you've mentioned that it's kind of like a no-brainer, career oriented,
I
right?
like a passion. It doesn't have to be a career, just passionate about something where
Yeah.
that you're working towards something. Like this
Okay,
is,
yeah.
like
So
you're
like
not
if
just gonna be relying on me.
so if you met a really cute girl and she worked at fast food restaurants, to you that's not good enough?
No, it doesn't matter if she's working at a fast food restaurant. Like she could be a manager. She could be like if she has like dreams to do something. Like, I don't care if you're working
Okay,
anywhere. Like if you got dreams, like yeah, I want to do this.
yeah.
I like that.
I think you should avoid dating too if you don't have like the money to and not go into debt to do so, to just avoid embarrassing situations. Like, why would you want to go into a restaurant and have your card declined? Like, why would you want to go
That's happened
out?
to me before.
That's awful.
She was a friend, but it is embarrassing. I was
No.
surprised though, and they shouldn't have declined my stuff.
How did you resolve that? Can I ask?
Huh.
How
Well,
did
she just
you?
bought it. She just bought it.
Oh man.
But it wasn't like it wasn't a real date. We were just studying. We were just gonna get some food, and my stuff got declined. And,
Oh shoot. Yeah.
yeah, but she was there, so it's just good.
I would.
I was in college,
I would be
hey,
mortified.
I was in college.
I would be mortified to do that.
It wasn't really
Now,
like
I also don't think that it's the end of the world if a girl pays for you, right? In the sense that, like, if she does once or twice, it's no big deal, right? But as a man, you should have the ability to carry that burden the majority of the time, regardless. In my opinion,
both. I think it goes both ways because I've heard of girls like I had one friend who and both of him and his girl, they make pretty decent money, and she like took her guy out on this like amazing like trip to Europe and like paid for most of them.
okay, that's
trip.
different though,
I know.
because they've been in a relationship. We're talking about just even starting a relationship. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah, but hey, man, a lot of these traditional roles, I don't know. Like, I feel like they're not as big of a thing as they used to be.
I disagree. I think they're coming back with a vengeance.
I don't think so. I think they're going away, man.
I don't know. The women I talk to are
There's
more
less and less people in relationships, period, and less people settling down. Like,
okay
the
in
world
that
is
in,
the
in
world
that
is
part, sure.
changing.
But in terms of like roles, I think it's trending more towards traditional, like way more than ever before,
No,
in my opinion.
I don't think so. Yeah,
But
let's see what the stats on
but
it.
also like another thing that you would want to avoid is establishing a pattern, like where if you take her out to like a super like a nice restaurant, you're establishing a pattern, right? And you don't want to offer something that you can't repeat. Like if you set the bar at, oh, I'm going to take you to Turks and Caicos, and then you're like, oh, we got to go for on walk dates for
I'm
for the
only
rest
doing
of
a
the
trip
year.
like that with my wife.
But you get what I'm trying to
Yeah, I
say,
know. I
right?
get it. I
So like
get
if
it.
you think it's like the highest rated restaurant here in
Yeah.
Milwaukee, that does not
Oh
mean that you
no,
should
no.
like
There's levels to it.
there's
I'm
levels to this, and
I'm
we'll
not.
talk about it
Yeah.
later. But the point I'm trying to get at is that you don't want to offer something you can't repeat, because then she'll come to expect it. So then if you don't have the money to sustainably offer a certain amount of dates or certain amount of things, then I think you should probably refrain from it. Or at least like with me and Adre, just set the bar at wherever you are, right? And then if she wants to date you at that point, perfectly fine. But in generally speaking,
I'm not taking a girl out that I barely know to like some amazing restaurant.
no, absolutely not.
You gotta be like we gotta already be committed for me to spend money like that. Like I'm not gonna just spend money like that and you just be like, yeah, you were nice, and then never and like block me. No, like we'll
Yes.
go to like a nice coffee shop. We'll go for maybe a walk at the park, which I think are great like ideas for going out or getting to know someone.
We actually have an
Um,
episode on dates later on in the season, so that's gonna
yeah.
be fun.
But I wouldn't spend like $100 on a girl on a first date. Like
No.
heck no. Like unless there's a ring on that finger. And as Adventists, a lot of us don't have rings, but unless you're married or you intend to marry this girl or that's been established, that's how I see it. I'm not doing that. Like
No, I feel that.
yeah.
And I mean, as weird as it sounds, and I don't mean this in a derogatory way, but women, frankly, are just expensive. It is what it is. I'm not trying to be mean
Relationships,
about
yeah,
it.
you're gonna spend more money.
Relationships are expensive. Dates are expensive. And like, I've actually, how women say, like, well, I'd actually pay for a date here and there. It's actually, I've never heard like of a woman actually try super duper hard to actually pay for anything. Like they'll offer, they'll take out the purses, they'll do the performative thing, and that's fine. And I'm not saying some don't, right? But it's not the MO. It's not the modus operandi.
Well, if you're
It's not in their nature to be like, oh yeah, let's do half and half 100%.
well
And to be honest, to me that would be a little weird if she would want to go Dutch on everything. I
I
don't
feel like
know.
if you're the person asking them to go out, like you should probably foot more of the bill.
Yeah.
If the girl was like, "Hey, let's go like do this or let's do that," then
Even then, though, I'd still
well,
want
then
to.
I mean, like if I'm asking a girl to come out and do this with me, I'm gonna feel responsible. Like that's natural. But like if a girl's like saying, "Hey, like can we go and do this or let's do this," and I'll
Yeah.
be like, "Sure." Then I'll be maybe like, "Okay, like you gonna help me out a little bit here? This is expensive." That's
What?
how. Yeah, why not?
Hold up. Hold
Don't
up.
be telling me like let's go to Six Flags and I'm like okay and then I'm paying like $200. No,
Yeah.
you gotta I would expect then. But if I'm like hey
Yeah.
like I want to do
Yeah. If
this,
she's offering,
but I feel like
if she invites, I should say. I would feel it's super weird if a girl asks me out on a date and then expects me to pay. That's awful.
yeah no no
Why
yeah I
would you
was
do
like
that?
like if you're asking me to go somewhere with you, I like if especially if it's expensive, I would expect you to like hey, okay let's like are we like how are we paying for this? I wouldn't expect.
I would still take money,
No, I would
right?
still put some
But
money into it
I
too,
don't.
but
I
I
mean, I don't
wouldn't
think
don't
I
expect me
would.
to pay 100% of it. I
Like
think
for
that's
example,
only
Adre has invited me out to brunch before,
hmm
and she paid, and there's no problem with that, right?
yeah.
Right? Like that's no big deal.
That's I feel like that's should
That's
how it
cute.
that's usually how it would be. Like I feel
Yeah,
like
it's nice.
if a girl's expecting you to
But if Adre is like, oh, let me invite you out to brunch, and then she's like, and then he expects me to pay, I'd feel uncomfortable.
red flag.
I mean, and I don't want what do you call it? There are some women who, and I know Abby's blood's probably boiling hearing this, but it's a sense that like So some women like don't offer to pay because they don't want to emasculate their man, and I don't think that that's a good excuse. Like, oh, well, like if I offered to pay, then that would be
I
emasculating.
mean, if you offer to pay,
I think
that's
it's
cool.
endearing.
But if I feel like no,
I
like
don't think I'd
I
let
won't.
you, but I
Yeah,
mean that it's endearing. At least offer.
if I offer like no, it's all right. I got it. I brought you out.
Yeah,
Let me
let me take
pay.
care of it.
Let me pay.
Yeah,
But if she keeps pushing, then I would be like, well, you don't think I can afford this? Like, come on now. Like I said, I was gonna buy it or pay for it. Let me pay for it.
and it also
Don't
depends on
keep
the
pushing.
girl. Like I'll give you like
But
for
I think some
example,
girls do that. Wait, I think some girls do that because they feel, and I kind of mentioned this earlier, that they feel like, oh, if he pays all of this, he's gonna expect me
want something.
want something in return. So they kind of maybe
Yeah,
do that
I think that
as
comes
a
from a
means to
plain of
be
hurt,
like,
place of hurt.
I paid for all of it. I paid for half. He doesn't. There's no like expectation
Yeah,
anymore.
that's true. And some women like to show off when they pay for stuff. Do you remember when I was and she
Yes,
paid? I had a feeling that she was trying to show off her money and like look
that's
at what I
fine.
got.
But I mean, it wasn't like a date. It was just like
Yeah, just
we're
the
going
three
out
of
as
us.
friends. So it was
Yeah.
nothing. That's different. But
Yeah, no, that's true. But okay, so let's assume you had half the money you have now. You would not be able to go to the conferences to meet the girls from Canada that you've met. You wouldn't have been able to go to the mission trips that you've gone to meet the other Canada girl that you've met, right? So how would you approach dating if you had like half the money you have now? Because you need money to like do stuff and like for hobbies. Like for example, like when I met Meredith at tennis, that costs money. Like it costs $100 for like just to play tennis with everybody. So had I not done that, I wouldn't have met her. I wouldn't have met,
well, I
my other
think.
tennis
I mean,
partner or things like
yeah.
that.
I
And
mean,
that's just tennis, right? There's other hobbies that people have that
you
are
meet
way
people
more
at work.
expensive.
You meet people
Unless
at
you work from
work.
home, then you're screwed.
Well, yeah, like you, I guess. You meet people at church. Church is free or should be.
But we're talking about us in the Adventist world.
I know. I'm
You're in your
saying
late 20s.
a lot of people meet
There's nobody at our churches now, Mike.
as our church. The Spanish churches. There's some people there. The English side, not so much.
Okay, so now that's an interesting concept where like that I don't think we've actually talked about that before where we haven't really suggested like go to a church of a different nationality or a different
Hmm.
or like a different language to see like what's there. Because had you not gone to MSDA, you would have never thought to go to Hayes.
Yeah, I think a lot of my
And
old school friends are there. I wish I'd gone earlier. I've just been having such a good time.
yeah,
It's been a blessing for sure.
huge. I mean,
I'm like the
it's
only
changed your
everybody's
life.
Hispanic there. I'm the only like black dude there
You're the
or
only American
English
there.
speaking there. Yeah,
Yeah.
but they've accepted me into their family.
And I think money is like a bigger issue than people care to admit. Because if money really wasn't an issue, I don't think singleness would be that hard for you in the sense that
Of course, it's
you
always
could
been that
just
way.
travel abroad. You could travel across the country. You could do whatever you need to do to meet people.
Yeah, it's
So
always been
I don't think
that's never been a new revelation. It's always been that way for
yeah, so like
hundreds of
the
years.
less money you have, the less options you have, obviously,
Of course.
which makes it that much more harder to date, and especially in your late 20s. And this is maybe just a thought for me, where I feel like if you're struggling in your late 20s, without like a plan or some sort of like reason, like you went bankrupt because the business you started went bust or what have you, or at least it seems to me like you're kind of behind financially.
Or
Like what have you been
even
doing
in a biblical
this whole
perspective,
time?
even in a biblical perspective, like if you wanted to marry a woman in Bible times, you had to pay money,
That's true.
a
Yeah,
dowry,
dowry.
to get her. Like you couldn't
Right.
just be like, "Hey, I'm gonna date your." No, where's the money?
Yes.
Give me the money. You're taking
And
my
it
daughter.
and it would go to the daughter anyway, right? Or in theory, right? That I
Yeah,
mean,
but
Laban
like
stole
the
it.
family would not like give you permission or blessing if you were just like,
Too poor, yeah.
yeah, no, yeah,
But
which,
even then,
yeah,
Illinois talks about how there was still provision made for the poor,
yeah, yeah,
and if they wanted to
of
marry
course,
too,
but it
and
was,
just like with us in our day now,
mhm,
that happens too.
yeah,
And also, it's a good point to notice where money being an issue, like the fact that money is one of the leading reasons that couples divorce is
mhm,
not is or should say is indicative of the fact that it's of the utmost importance now.
mhm,
Where if you can't handle your money now, if you can't acquire it now, or at least get a plan together or things like that,
mhm.
that's kind of an issue because you have to at least think about what you're going to do, or at least have a game plan so that it's not an issue when you are together. Because now when you're together, that stuff does come into play of whether or not you are good with your money and whether you're trustworthy with it, right? So like if they saw me wasting my money on lottery tickets, she would be in the total right to be like, you should probably switch that up. Like you should probably um what's the word I'm looking for here? Like, like I want you to be better at managing and handling your money. So I think the fact that the economy is going down and that everything's so expensive makes it that much harder
Yeah, well,
to
they've
be able to
noticed
do everything. And
statistics on that. And the way the economy goes, like marriage and childbearing goes.
well, that's interesting, right? As the economy goes down, divorce rates also go down because it's harder to afford life.
Well,
And
that's
then
true. Less people are settling down,
yeah, so like
but they also,
during
in
the
instances,
pandy,
go up because if there's a high rate of marriage, and then all of a sudden there's a sudden crash, like in the Great Recession, or I would like to see the statistics on the housing crash or the housing market crash of '08, where life was seemingly good, people were marrying and people were having families. I wonder how like the numbers uh were impacted once the recession hit, because Great Recession, men just walked out on their families or on their women,
the
millions
Great
of them. The
Depression.
Great Depression.
Yeah, that was over like that was 100 years ago at this
Yeah,
point.
but still, like it's the same. We're humans. Nothing's new under the sun. Like we've always been the same psychologically. And a lot of that
I guess.
you'll see in impoverished communities where rates of divorce are high, rates of infidelity are higher, and
Hmm.
like communities where there is a lot of poverty, a lot of single families and households because just money.
So let's assume you had half the money you have now, right? If you made half of what you do and you can't change careers readily, how would you approach dating? Because like you can't go out to eat as much. Like every Sunday, you usually go out with the group from Bible study. You wouldn't be able to do that.
Mm-hmm.
How would you approach dating from that perspective if you made
I
half
mean,
of
it
what
wouldn't
you
really
do?
change much. Like I said, my approach is always the same. It's just I'm a people person first and foremost, so I always just talk.
But
I get to
again,
know people. But yeah,
you're not taking into
if
account
I wanted
that
to take
that
the
that you
next
can't
step,
go out every
well, I know,
weekend,
well,
multiple times a weekend,
I go out every Sabbath, so
every Sabbath and Sunday.
yeah, we just hang out. But I mean, like, I mean,
But because you have the money to do so. My point is
no, I
now
mean,
everything's
I
half.
would still go to like hang out with the Hispanic churches and stuff like that.
Okay.
Not like going out to eat, but they still do a lot of things outside of like within the church.
Yeah.
I'd be like, hey, I want to go for a walk. Like things are tight right now. Let's go to the park, or let's go to somebody's house for a movie.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
You know, and then that's just kind of on par with me. I'm more of like the simple things, things that don't require so much money or resources to do. So it wouldn't change so much, but I would hope that like maybe the girl that I'm talking to would also understand like
Well,
where
you're
I'm
not
at in
talking to any
life.
girl. So like,
I would still talk to girls.
okay,
I
sure.
just I may not be like, hey, let's go out.
So what do you mean by talking? I guess the girl I'm talking to. What do you mean by that?
Just getting to know her.
Okay.
Yeah, just getting to know her. Like that
But
would
you're
never
not doing
change.
that right now with the money you do have.
Who says I ain't doing that right now?
Are you doing that right now?
I mean, who knows? I mean, you don't know. You ain't around me 24/7, dog. I still talk to people. I just
No, but I mean like intention. Okay, whatever. That's not here nor there. Um, let's say if you didn't have money, what would be your game plan for you, or like what would you
Well,
recommend
I
to other
would
people?
focus, on my career, because I mean, when you're, a younger age, or college age, or just coming out of college, you're like, if you're in college, not really working full time, so a lot of people date other college people, and so depending on where I'm at in life, I would date other people who also have that similar type of life that I have right now, and so it's kind of what I said earlier.
Do you say college age?
Well, I'm saying like college age or just outside of college too.
Okay,
You know.
because we talked about college age, and you said that was too young.
Yeah, no, I'm saying it. I'm just using examples
Okay,
for like anybody. Like if you're in college age or outside of college, you're just getting career established. You're doing all that. So like you would probably be around people who also have that kind of similar
sure.
like mindset. Like if you're working and you're just starting your career. We know like the newer employees, which are most likely younger, they're probably working like the third shift. So there are going to be people doing that,
Yeah,
and that's going to be
like
your
Raiden,
base.
for example.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and that was me too when I was working in the lab. Like I was third shift, or second shift. You have most of the younger people, most of the new grads working that shift. So I just feel like you would always kind of be around people who have like similar, like, I guess, lifestyle towards you. So I
I
think
think
it
it
would
would
be,
suck
I
if
think it
that
would be
wasn't readily
like,
available to you.
huh?
I think it would be sad if it wasn't readily available to you, like those kind of people around you. So like let's say you lived in Loma Linda where everybody is either a nurse or a doctor
No,
and
most people in
everybody
Loma
makes,
Linda are students.
well, you know what I mean.
I get it. Yeah.
It's, if you're kind of, brokish over there, it would be a whole lot harder because you wouldn't really find
No,
a lot
there's a
of
lot of young people in
peers.
Loma Linda, in
You
Riverside.
said poor people,
A lot of young people, which I guess relatively, yeah, well, they're poor.
I guess.
They're not working full time. They're students.
Yeah.
You
I
know.
mean, like if I had half the money I do now, I would have such a hard time with it today, such a hard time because I'd have to like the amount of times that she's here would have to go down tremendously. What we
Hmm.
do here would go down tremendously.
Yeah.
It would have such a huge effect on our relationship
Hmm.
and and like the projection of where we see each other in like a year and things
Yeah,
like
that
that.
is true.
Like money is such a huge aspect of our relationship, whether we like it or not. That if I lost half my income, that would be like like super duper bad for us, which makes my management of it that much more
Yeah, I always think about that because I'm
crucial.
like, okay, if I date this chick, I always think long term when I look at a chick that I might potentially talk to. I'm always like, okay, how does this look like in a year? Or like, what could I like? How could I lead us to what the ultimate goal is? Right? Like, is
Yeah.
this reasonable? Whether I'm in school or whether I'm still working my way up in my career. Like, how would that look? And a lot of times that does prevent me from maybe going out or pursuing a girl because I'm just like, especially like if the girl is like she doesn't have her own money
Hmm.
or she's not really doing anything like if we were to have a family, like her salary would not support any one of us.
Yeah.
I would have to be the main supporter. A lot of times that does like put her off the chopping block. Like I would say like a girl like that I would potentially date, she has to like have her own money. Like you can't just be relying on me. At least, but like have faith
Yeah.
in me. Have faith in me though. Stick with me,
Yeah.
and then
Stay with
I'll
me now.
reward you. I'll reward your
Patience
patience
and
and
your
your
loyalty.
loyalty. That's the word I was looking for.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I knew one nurse when I was in school, when I was in the lab. She this is at the UW hospital. She was a nurse, or no, I think she was a medical technologist. And her fiance or her husband was in medical school. Oh no, I think he was in residency, and they had kids already. And she was like, "Yeah, I've been working overtime," but she says like, "My work's gonna pay off soon though."
Yeah.
Because when he becomes a doctor, she's like, "Yeah,
I'm
I'm a
gonna
chill."
rest.
Yeah, because she's like, "Yeah, I'm putting a lot
The
of
work is
yeah." She's like,
done.
"I'm putting a lot of hours to support us." But yeah, when he becomes a doctor, then yeah, I
Here we
give him a
go.
break.
What I did when
I was
I,
like, man, I like that. I
had
would
a
love
lot
that.
less money than I do now, and when I didn't have it today, was and maybe this is probably like I guess I would recommend it to young guys who don't have el dinero to date is to just focus on your work, because you are your moneymaker in the sense of like it is your productivity that's going to get you there. And I realize that it's not one to one, but you at least need to exert some sort of control over your life and over your future prospects.
I would also say find a girl who buys into your dream or who
Yeah.
like
Well, establish a
who
dream.
believes in you.
Yeah, exactly.
And I would say I go both ways. Like ladies, if you find a guy who's got dreams and passions and who works hard, don't just find like some deadbeat dude. But if a dude who works hard and he has dreams and passions, that guy will never be broke.
Yeah.
He's
And
always
I
going to
think
be
one of the
working towards
reasons
something. He's always going to have money,
I
even
think
if
one
he
of the
doesn't have a
reasons
lot
like
right now.
NAA was on board with me was because I had a plan. I had
Yeah,
I was like somewhere to go, right?
yeah,
So work on yourself, have a direction that she can buy into,
yeah.
right?
There's a
And then also
mhm.
like showcase some sort of consistency in your plan, right? Don't just say, "Oh, I have a plan," but then
Mm-hmm.
you're not actually working towards it. Don't just say, "Oh, this is what I'm going to do," and then like, well, what have you been doing the last 6 months? And it has nothing to do with your plan. She's going to be like, well, your plan is just words. It doesn't make any sense. That's stuff that money doesn't buy. That you can, or let's say it is a money issue, right? Like, I'll give you an example. To the podcast this season, I needed to buy a new what do you call it? Like, just new storage, because you're shooting everything in 4K, and the 4K footage, like, it's about 200 gigabytes per episode of just raw footage,
Mm-hmm.
and then plus the exported video is like another 70 or 60 gigabytes. Like, I needed something that was going to be able to handle that.
Mm-hmm.
So if part of my plan is I think this podcast is going to blow up and I'm going to be able to monetize it, sell it, syndication, whatever it is, um, that, and I didn't have the money for that storage, you know, if money was the issue, that's understandable. But other than that, it's more of an issue of like making sure you have your ducks in a row. And if money is the issue, make sure that everything around it is ready so that when that does hit, you can hit the ground running.
Mm-hmm.
Which, I mean, I think that's cool. Another thing is that you should maximize the cheaper and no cost ways of relating to women. I'll give you an example. I wasn't dating a day last year, and if you remember, I hosted some game nights here at the house. I connected you with them again, and we had a good time. And like, now you're having, like, now you're, commingling with women that you otherwise weren't, and that's something that didn't cost us a cent, other than to, buy everybody dinner, which is like super cheap, right? So things like that are low cost or even no cost, of just, changing where you go to church, or just somewhere that makes you feel alive. I don't really know how to explain it. Is something that I would recommend if you don't have, I guess, the money right now. But another thing I would say is work hard, like super hard, because you can control how much you work hard. And as men, we have the ability to just go balls to the walls. And, people say it's not that hard, or it's not particularly great to, what do you call it? Grind with no sleep. But I think you can grind for a little while, or even a longer while, if you know that it's going to pay off. And that, like, again, all comes back down to having a plan. And I don't want to neglect the most important part, which is obviously pray and make sure that God is helping you making the wise decisions. And that, I guess this is something that I didn't think about until now, which is that make sure you pay your tithe. Don't rob God,
Mm-hmm.
because if you are poor now and you start robbing God, you're gonna go down it's gonna get real ugly real quick. So don't neglect your responsibility to God,
Real ugly. I just
because
think
it's
you won't.
not.
You're missing out on a blessing that God may want to bless you with if you're not trusting Him.
Yeah.
You know. So
Yep.
God.
Yep.
I don't think He'll like sabotage you, but you might. You'll allow Satan to sabotage you, or you sabotage yourself.
Yeah. He
Trust
doesn't need to
God.
sabotage you.
Yeah,
You can do that all on
you'll
your
do it
own.
all on your
And then lastly, I'll say that if you don't have the money right now, don't get discouraged, because your value is not tied to money solely, right?
own.
Just because you don't have the money, that doesn't mean that you're not worth it, and that you're not, a great person to be with, and that's worth love and finding someone and things like that. So, and then, like I said, I can't really speak on the women's side if you don't have a lot of money, because guys usually bear the brunt of the costs anyway. But it's also harder because you can't put yourself, like, to be found in such conferences, right? That's also a problem. And I mentioned some other things, but I guess I wish Abby were here, but she missed her window to come on. She likes to work out on Sundays, so it's really nice that she gets to do that with her friend Veronza.
I would just say,
But
it's always important to surround yourself, first of all, with, well, focus like on your goals, but when you focus on your goals, you'll surround yourself with people who have a like mind,
yeah,
because I don't want just a girl. I don't want just to have a girl,
yeah,
I
true,
want a partner in life, someone that's going to help build me up, so that I can help build up someone that believes in me, someone that I can believe in and see, like, support them, what they're going to do, like, in their day-to-day jobs and like spiritually,
yeah,
and so I think, like, if you find people like that, because yeah, you're gonna like a girl. Just I feel like I don't want people to think like that we're saying like not to approach a girl just because
But just be honest with your situation,
but
right?
like I think you can still
Don't
like
hide that fact.
yeah, but like I feel like but that's
don't set
why
unrealistic standards and
that's
things
why
like
I
that.
say surround yourself with people who have a like mind like you and who are dreamers,
Mm-hmm.
who have passion, who have goals, who are spiritually like inclined, who want to serve God. Then things like money, I guess, won't like at that moment be such a big priority because you're all building yourself together, and
Yes.
you can like build relationships like that with people and girls, or like an intimate relationship with someone who has that same mindset like you.
Yeah.
And then y'all can like plan your lives out together, plan where y'all want to do and go in life,
Yep.
and go from there, and then the money will come.
And also, like, money is not like it's something you should know and learn how to handle well. To where if you're with somebody, that doesn't automatically change. So the way you handle money now is going to affect the way you handle money
Yeah, be
with your
responsible.
personals, with your future spouse.
Yeah,
So
don't bring kids into the world if you can't afford yourself.
yeah, exactly.
Can't take care of yourself. Don't think you can take care of another kid.
Yeah.
I've seen that so many times. But
So overall, dating in this
point.
economy, it's not easy. It's not cheap. And if you're broke but horny, I would say, God, pray about it and work hard to get out of that stage. And
empty your mind of that.
empty your mind. Would you mind leading us out in prayer, buddy?
Yes. Dear Lord, thank you for this day. Thank you for allowing us to be here. Help us to, just remember that we should put you first in our life, and that when it comes to all these things, that we should just trust you and, continue to work towards our goals and work towards, having a better relationship with you, and that all the things, if we put you first, will come into our life and will add to our life, whether that be just friendships or, intimate relationships and future spouses. So just give everyone faith and encouragement in that, and help us to stay rooted in the word and in prayer. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen.